Thank you very much. I'm sorry I couldn't be physically with you, but here we go. I get some echo, but I guess that's normal. So we all know about Sputnik as being the first object thrown into sky. It was October 4, 1957. Well, not long after, in December same year, December 28, some professors from the physics school of University of San Luis Potosí in the middle of Mexico were sending their first sounding rocket to the atmosphere. So let me see, okay. Not long after, 1959 to 60, the Communications Ministry by Mr. Walter C. Buchanan designed and built two types of rockets using liquid fuel following the German V2 type of motors. And they reached 4,000 to 25,000 meters high. In the 60s, the milestones are 1960, there was a commission to, let me, okay, here we have. Trying to drag the, oh, it doesn't work. Okay, in 1960, we have a commission set up for space observations between Mexico and the US. And a year later, in 1961, there was a ground tracking station built to follow initially the Mercury missions, but then they used it to track the Gemini and Apollo missions as well. This was in Sonora, Mexico. 1962, the first Mexican space agency, so to speak, by the name of Commission for Outer Space, was set up by a president order. The same year, the University of Mexico set up the Department of Outer Space at the Geophysics Institute. And at the end of the decade, in 1968, it was, there was a big ground station built, communications antenna, 32 meters. At that time was the biggest antenna in the world. And we were able to transmit for the first time Olympic Games in full color via satellite. This is an old picture of the tracking station at Sonora. And in 1968, the rockets that Mexico was sending to space were displayed in Mexico City during the Olympic Games. From 1967 to 1975, the Commission for Outer Space built two types of rockets, and they reached 50 kilometers and 120 kilometers already in outer space. Unfortunately, in 1977, the commission, the Outer Space Commission, was dismantled by an executive presidential order. I had the chance of being in Cape Kennedy when the Apollo 15 mission was about to be launched, and that was happening while we were designing and sending rockets, sounding rockets. The NASA was already in the moon, on the moon. 1985, the first Mexican satellite system consisting of two satellites, that the ones that you see in the picture, were sent into space using the space shuttle. We had the first and only Mexican astronaut, sponsored by Mexican government. The same year, using the fact that we had the satellites and the astronaut, we were able to get also a package to design and build getaway spatial type of experiments to fly on board the space shuttle. We see there at the shaking table, and I was able to be with that team as well. Unfortunately, the experiments didn't fly because the Challenger blew up, and our experiments were going to fly in the next flight that delayed 3 years. The most prominent Mexican related to space, and in this case Mars, is the Dr. Rafael Navarro from the Nuclear Science Institute at the National University of Mexico. He's with a group of life search researchers. Finally, in July 2010, the Mexican Congress passed a law to create a Mexican Space Agency. And the three main objectives of the Mexican Space Agency are to promote the development and use of space technology, to meet social needs of the population and the protection of the environment, promote the development and use of space technology to improve the country's competitiveness and foster the growth of the sector, and to promote education, space science, and technologies for the generation of national capacities, human capital, and international positioning in the space sector. Those are for this administration time frame. And as far as the research, development and innovation projects, we have a matching fund, one-to-one, with the National Council of Science and Technology. And from 2014, that started the fund till now, we have approximately $3 million split or to some 150 projects. So it's really only a seed capital. And from one of those projects is precisely the so-called Mexican moon payload. It came after the second request for proposal. It was awarded to the Nuclear Science Institute, and the objective is to validate on the lunar surface the use of small autonomous robots to build general purpose structures. And the reason for this is that to send humans to build on space or on our planet's structures is risky and it's very expensive. So we would like to validate the use of robots to do at least part of the dirty work, if you want to call it that way. The payload is small, a very small payload, and it will be sent to the moon in the Griffin Lunar lander from the Astrobotic company. And this is the Griffin Lunar lander. And I interviewed the main researcher on the project to get more information, and he was not ready to give me more details on how advanced the design is. But you can see on the floor there is a grid that he would use to program and to it's like a test ground of the small robots. And they're building the thermal vacuum facility for testing with a sample of or replica of the lunar regolith, and see how the small robots behave with that type of situations or setup. And well, that's what I have to share with you, friends. If there is time for questions or whatever. This is it.
Thank you very much, Mario. If you could please stay online. And unfortunately, we have a cancellation. The last talk of this session, unfortunately, has not been able to make it. And so this actually completes the session apart from the question and answer portion. So if I could ask the previous speakers to come on up, why don't we go ahead and have Q&A. And Mario, I hope that you'll be able to hear the questions. If I could ask the audience to please wait until you have a microphone to help Mario hear you. Thank you.
Sure.